our friend Ryan Howard here.
What's up, bro?
VP of Growth.
Yeah.
My Bayou brother.
Bayou brother.
There we go. Yeah.
We'll get you some Cajun food, some crawfish.
Oh
season
yeah,
this year,
please,
right?
please. A little Tony Chacheray, right? There we go. So tell us a little bit about, for those that are not familiar, haven't watched our previous episodes, tell us a little bit about Freightsmith. What do you guys do?
I'm a freight smith, as he said. You can see my shirt here with a
There we
jackalope
go,
here.
representing.
So really, what we're trying to do is digitize the inbound process. There's a lot of pieces that happen around that slow things down. Whether that be at the gate with security guard, assigning dock doors, getting these truck drivers in and out of the receiving office. And so what we try to do is take a lot of that and then offload it through an app, through a thing we call an IMS, inbound management system, the receiving office uses. And so really, if we can keep the truck drivers in the trucks and keep the process moving quicker, get them into a dock door before they even have to get out and go through some paperwork, we can go ahead and start that unloading process, get them on the yard and off the yard quicker, which in the end, helps these drivers because, they may not time out. They can go pick up another load. It makes them happy. And then for the warehouse itself, they turn doors faster as well as, cutting down on detention, overtime, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's it's interesting because, it's kind of like we talked about previously, like a black hole in a sense, right? Where, you had kind of this not the best communication between drivers and the warehouse and, when they come in and the time it takes to check in and all these things. So it's really interesting that you've added this layer, the IMS, right, and put that in place to be able to make that a smoother process. And like you said, turn those doors quicker, which is really important, especially when you're doing a lot of high volume. I mean, the quicker you can turn that door, like the faster you can get inventory available, the faster you can get truckers on their way, be a better friend to the truckers, definitely, right?
Absolutely.
But here too, at the show, I think you guys have unveiled kind of a new product or recently scheduler tool. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we've got Freightsmith's Schedule Pro we just released, and it's a web-based scheduling system that's, can be tailored to your warehouse based upon what your docks looks like. So a lot of facilities may have a frozen dock and a perishable dock and a dry dock, and you want to make sure you assign those doors properly for each facility. So it's very user friendly like that. It's easy to install. It's SaaS. It's web based. So if a client is using Excel spreadsheets and emails and still trying to manage a schedule like that, and it's not I would call it more free flowing to where maybe the carrier broker has got an issue and they need to go on and reschedule that load, or maybe we need to push a reschedule to a carrier broker because something's happened on the docks and we need to make a change. Oftentimes that gets lost in translation with emails and phone calls, and there's a lot of time there with people chasing the driver down, chasing the carrier broker down. So if they can go to a web portal and make those adjustments just on the fly, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean,
which then feeds obviously into the IMS piece, because when those are linked together, if a company we work with doesn't have our system for scheduling, we're just integrating that into our IMS. But obviously, if they have Schedule Pro, then it all talks real nicely together. Hand off there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's such a great thing to digitize it, right? Because it's, like you said, oftentimes you're trying to chase somebody down and, change something to the schedule or, follow up with them. Where are they? All these things, and trying to understand like that part of the process. And oftentimes it gets lost, and you can see, I've been on email chains before in my previous experiences where, you got 25 emails going back and forth just trying to figure out where a driver is, right? I mean, it's a little crazy, right? And obviously, if somebody's not checking email, then, something's going to get lost there in between. So I mean, how are you seeing some of the reactions here, either from this show or other shows, when you're talking to people about, their inbound situations and some of the challenges that they're really seeing?
Yeah, I've talked to several organizations, and they, oftentimes I say, they wake up on Monday morning and it's Christmas every morning, and they've got trucks lined up all the way down the street. And it's that orchestration piece that I think that there's a big fail there. And I don't think it's intentional. Obviously it wouldn't be, but these warehouses, it just happens to be the case of what happens. And one of the things that they like that they're hearing is that because we have the Freightsmith app and these drivers can download that and we can communicate to them via the app, rather than these drivers being lined up down the street, I can have them at the love station that's fairly close, or a rest area, and they can be waiting. And then whenever we say, hey, it's time, there's a dock door available, pass them through the app a digital gate pass, or go ahead and sign them a dock door, and hey, they should be here within 15 minutes. Know, and so when I talk to companies about that, they're like, man, that really does make a whole lot of sense, because we do have that problem where, there may be an appointment time, but he's already here, or he's got an appointment time and they're not going to be here for 2 hours. So if they're using the app, we geolocate them within about 120-mile range, 24 hours out, we've got a good idea of kind of where this truck is, when they're going to be available. And if they do get within range and they've done the pre-check through the system and they've checked in, now I know, okay, this guy's available to be unloaded. If we've got a slot and we've got the manpower to do it, let's go ahead and bring them on in and get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such it's like inevitable. The driver's either like coming early or they're coming late, and and when you need them to be right on time, they're not right on time, and when you don't need them to be right on time, they're right on time, right? So I mean, it's great to be able to create that communication in a better way, and that understanding, and have that flexibility, I think, on both sides. And I think that kind of like generates a little more respect between the shipper and the driver, definitely on that side. So I mean, in general, here, as you're looking at things around the show and you're seeing and talking to people, I mean, what are some of the biggest challenges, I mean, aside from the inbound side, just in general, that people are kind of voicing out here?
Well, I continually hear, the problem around just staffing, labor, and having bodies to do the work. And so, I was at another event a couple of weeks ago, and the same situation, just kept hearing that again and again and again. Is how do we use AI, machine learning technology to mitigate some of this problem, because we only have so many people. We're having a hard time staffing. And so that's when I started, thinking about where can Freight-Smith help out with that. If we can save somebody out the guard shack, or if we can save, maybe you're running a 7-day shift and you can run a 6-day shift, because, we can get more throughput. So I think that is what I'm hearing just a whole lot of. And so when it comes to automation, robotics, AI, machine learning, that whole bit, I think it all centers around, again, we're not necessarily looking to replace people per se, but maybe you can move them in another spot or somewhere where they can be more productive, where
more
these
value,
things can actually, be a stopgap.
Yeah, very interesting. And I think that's one of the things, it seems like the last couple of years, it's just been like that reoccurring issue, right? It's just the employees and the labor, and trying to figure that out. So I mean, anytime you can optimize a little more or implement a system like the IMS or something to be able to do things quicker and more efficiently, I think like that's where you see those gains, and hopefully you can address some of those issues. So it's interesting to see how these technologies continue to evolve, and I know you hit like every show almost, right? So so you definitely got your finger on the pulse, and I'm curious too. I mean, from the trade show perspective, I mean, I'm getting asked all the time, people sending me messages like, what trade show should I go to, and all these things. So I'm curious, you run the circuit and do the tour pretty much. So I mean, what do you think are some of the top shows like out there for our industry?
Obviously, CSCMP is a good group. There's a lot of brands here, a lot of manufacturers here. You got warehouses, 3PL. So it's a good, I think, catch-all. Not as niche. Then you got something like IWLA. That group is a great group. International Warehousing Logistics Association. They run a really good event in March, and then several regional type events throughout the year. And if you really want to get in the weeds with a lot of 3PLs, owners, operations guys, that's a really good one to do. And last couple of weeks ago, I was out at Grocery Shop, and they also run Shop Talk. That's a very well-run event. It's a good group. I think they do a good job. And Manifest is a good one.
Coming
we'll be
up,
doing that one in January. But it's, you kind of got to run the circuit to figure out the ones that work for you.
Right.
And then, when you're kind of in that stage of figuring that out, you may do a few more, and then you'll hone that in and dial it in, going forward.
Interesting. Yeah. I think it's kind of like you got to experiment a little bit and see like what works for you.
Modex. We'll be at Modex in the spring, so
definitely
we do those as well. A lot of material handling people, which gets you inside the four walls, the operations guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's your number one tip for making the most of a trade show?
I like to say you got to work the after-hour shift. So only so much happens on the show floor. A lot of work is done. You need to be at the sessions and between the sessions during breakout. But I know for me personally, more of my leads, more of my business cards, more of my conversations happen what I call the 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. shift. If you're willing to do it and work that, you may have a later night, but in the end, I think that's where the relationships are formed.
Absolutely.
And, people let down their guard. They just want to have a conversation. You're not there to sell. You're there to build a
Okay.
relationship, and if there's a fit, there's a fit. If
Yeah.
not, you've got somebody else in the industry that can suggest you, and I see a lot of that happening here. Like, hey,
Yeah,
may not be
definitely.
a fit for me, but you should talk to so and so.
Yeah.
Which is always great.
Yeah, absolutely. So very interesting stuff with you, Ryan, as always. And if people want to learn more about Freightsmith, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, just go to freightsmith.net. Look us up on LinkedIn as well. We've got some good content that'll help you out. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for stopping by as always, man. All right. Have a good one.